Twilight Paladin, the Augmented Violet Executor DPS battlesuit. Her leader skill increases the physical damage of burst modes and ultimate skills used by Valkyries on the team. It also increases the team's total damage if all 3 members are of different types. Her basic attack is ranged, has 4 sequences, and inflicts multiple hits of damage per sequence. The 4th attack will also cause enemies to bleed. Twilight Paladin's charge attacks rely on her unique passive, the Fervor gauge, which maxes out at 500. Her basic attacks gain 7 Fervor per hit, and her QTE gains 150. Her QTE can be triggered by breaking enemy shields or by impairing them. She also gains 100 Fervor when activating her Evasion skill. Upon maxing out the Fervor gauge and using her charge attack, Twilight Paladin enters a Fervent state and begins to consume Fervor. The consumption rate increases every 6 seconds and caps from the 12th second onward. When in her Fervent state, Twilight Paladin's basic attacks become melee and have 5 sequences. The 5th sequence will cause enemies to bleed. She also gains resistance to interruption, reduces 40% of incoming total damage, and gains attack speed with each attack. Her charge attack is changed and can be used repeatedly. This charge attack is enhanced when the combo counter is at 100 or higher. The last sequence of the enhanced charge attack gains 120% total damage and deals an additional 500 to 1000% physical damage. The physical damage dealt is dependent on the combo count when the attack is used. Upon activating her Evasion skill, Twilight Paladin triggers a global time fracture. She also gains movement speed, 100 Fervor, and launches spinning blades at enemies, dealing damage and causing them to bleed. The damage dealt is doubled if used in her Fervent state. By consuming 100 SP, Twilight Paladin can use her ultimate skill, Crescent Edict, which knocks enemies in a large area airborne and inflicts multiple hits before summoning a giant cross, dealing massive physical damage and increased damage against shields. After the ultimate attack ends, Twilight Paladin enters her Fervent state and gains 15% critical rate for 15 seconds. Her Fervor gauge is also filled to the max and its consumption rate resets. If her Fervent state was active when using her ultimate attack, the Fervor gauge will stop depleting for the duration of the attack. She also generates a Blood Tide that lasts for 15 seconds, which increases her physical damage by 40% while she's within its area. In addition to all her abilities, Twilight Paladin also starts the battle with 36 initial SP. Her basic attacks both in and out of her Fervent state gain 50% physical damage against unshielded enemies and 50% critical damage against enemies with unbroken shields. When scoring critical hits with her basic and Fervent attacks, she also gains 0.2 SP and 15 Fervor. When equipping the Twilight Paladin, her signature equipment, Hecate's Gloom, and Kafka's full set are incredibly well suited to her abilities. Hecate's Gloom has an extremely low SP requirement and is able to increase her combo count by up to 40 hits in 8 seconds. It also helps maintain her combo in situations where she has to dodge for an extended time frame or is knocked down. Hecate's Gloom also comes with an amazing passive that increases the wielder's total damage by 20% and further increases physical damage by up to 25%. Kafka's full set works well not only with the Twilight Paladin, but with any physical damage Valkyrie that utilizes charge attacks. All 3 parts of the set provide a form of physical damage, with the T part providing up to 20% total damage and 20% critical damage. The M part provides up to 40% physical damage, and the B part provides up to 20% critical rate. They all gain stacks when the wielder scores critical hits, a requirement easily met by the Twilight Paladin, especially with the help of the B Stigma. The 2-set ability allows the wielder to instantly max the effects of all Kafka Stigmata equipped and increases the wielder's total damage by 45%. And finally, the 3-set ability, which is also triggered when a charge attack is used, gives the wielder a 60% chance to deal extra hits that can be added to the combo counter, and also increases the critical rate to 100%. These 2 abilities only work for the next 30 hits after the 3-set ability is triggered. The wielder also reduces damage received by 35%. The total damage increase from these 4 pieces of equipment combined add up to 85% total damage, 65% physical damage, and 20% critical damage during the 12 seconds that the 2-set ability is active. When in need of alternative weapons, Blood Embrace can provide a decent amount of damage due to Twilight Paladin's ability to bleed enemies. The downside is that its active skill won't be of much use, and the gaining of combos will take slightly longer. Along with either weapon, Michelangelo T and B with Plank M would make a good alternative set. But even though this combination does provide a good amount of damage, the 2-set ability for Michelangelo has a longer cooldown, and the wielder has a much lower critical rate. There are stigmata that can work well together, preferably with any 2 parts from Kafka's set or Michelangelo T and B. As there are almost no cost-effective options, the Ranger's Cross can be used as an alternative weapon. Even though its active and passive skills do not benefit the Twilight Paladin, it does not require any Honkai cubes to be upgraded to 5 stars, allowing it to beat the base stats of any free cross. Even though it is not ideal, there are still 4-star stigmata that can be useful. For team combinations, Drive Kometa and Void Drifter work well both against bosses and against multiple enemies. Drive Kometa is able to mark enemies with a crippling field, making it easier to interrupt them, increasing shield damage dealt against them, and weakening them for as long as they are in the field. She also provides a shield for teammates and is able to gather enemies if absolutely necessary. Fortunately, when teamed with Void Drifter, the task of gathering enemies falls on her shoulders instead. Void Drifter can also assist in breaking enemy shields when needed. For support equipment, Drive Kometa will require Star Shatterer Vikrant to increase the damage dealt by the team against enemies affected by the crippling field. For Stigmata, Tesla Band T, Beethoven M, and either Beethoven B or Isaac Newton B can be used depending on the situation. As for Void Drifter's equipment, Mjolnir or Arc Serratus make excellent support options. Gustav Klimt T and M and Ogier B or Isaac Newton B make good Stigmata options, also depending on the situation. The Celestial Hymn is also a great option and can take Void Drifter's place in the team. One thing to note when using her is that 2 crosses cannot be simultaneously deployed. Twilight Paladin does require a bit of build-up in battle. She is strong in drawn-out battles, both against bosses and mobs. She relies heavily on critical hits to maintain her Fervent state, and benefits greatly from being able to accumulate combo hits quickly. A way to utilize her enhanced charge attack could be to accumulate a higher combo count before entering her Fervent state. If the enhanced charge attack is used immediately after she enters her Fervent state, she should be able to accumulate another 200 hits while still in that state with the help of her ultimate attack. The good thing about her is that she only requires her base form, the Violet Executor, at its base S rank to reach 4-star augmentation, which unlocks all her skills. The downside, however, is that without proper equipment, it will be hard to bring out her potential and deal impressive amounts of damage. While she is able to stay on the battlefield for extended time periods, a good team would make her even more devastating.